Hello, welcome to Grandma B's Busy Life. I'm Brenda. Today I'm getting a little bit ready for Thanksgiving. I don't do a ton ahead of time, but I love stuffing, but not the box kind. I don't mind that on a weeknight for a quick side, but for Thanksgiving, I like stuffing made from seasoned bread cubes. But when I go to the store and it is $4 for a bag that I know I could make for 50 cents, I can't do it. Especially because to feed all of my family, I need 2 bags. So today I'm just going to make a seasoned bread loaf and show you how I turn it into seasoned bread cubes to use for Thanksgiving. This is not a tutorial on how to bake bread, so if you're not familiar with the basics of bread baking, check out the description box below for a full tutorial. Okay, in my bowl I have the equivalent of 1 package of yeast, which is 2 1/4 teaspoons, and a teaspoon of sugar just to get the yeast activated. I'm going to add 3 cups of milk that I scalded and then let cool down to about 95 degrees. As soon as the milk was scalded, I put a stick of frozen butter in it so that the butter would melt. It doesn't have to be frozen. Mine just happened to be frozen. Putting the stick of butter in the milk saves me from using another dish to melt the butter in. On top of this, I'm going to add my seasonings: a tablespoon of poultry seasoning, a tablespoon of sage, 2 teaspoons black pepper, 2 teaspoons salt, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, a tablespoon of parsley, and a tablespoon of celery leaves. And then 2 tablespoons of minced onion. I'm also going to add in 2 eggs. I'm going to start with 5 cups of flour. I'm probably going to need closer to 6, but I'm starting with 5 so that I can get it mixed and see where I'm at. It smells so good. It smells like Thanksgiving. You can do this with my basic bread recipe, and I'll put that link in the description box below. I like to do it with the milk and the egg because it gives it more of an enriched dough. But if you just put those spices into a basic bread recipe, it would be fine. Okay, my dough has kneaded for 7 minutes, and I'm just going to put it in the bowl to rise for an hour or so. Now, with as much seasoning as I put in this bread, you do not need to add seasoning when you make your stuffing, but I guess you could if you wanted to. I don't. I did oil this bowl. So I just put it in one way, flip it around so there's oil on both sides. I have some kitchen bandanas that I just used to cover my dough. It is wet. It'll keep it from getting dry on the top, and I'm just going to leave it for about an hour. The bread is fully risen, so now I'm going to break it into 2 pieces, roll it up, and stick it into my greased pans to rise again. It ended up fitting into my 2 long pans and 1 regular size bread pan. I'm just going to let it cool, and then I'll cut it into cubes. I started by using a large serrated knife and just cut it into slices. Here's what the slices look like with all those herbs in it. And then after cutting the whole loaf into slices, I turned those slices on the side and then cut them into strips. And then I cut those strips into cubes. I did find it was easier to take long, slower strokes than short back and forth strokes. It just cut through the bread so much easier. And I also found cutting one set off and then cutting the chunks like this was easier than the way I tried to do it when I was trying to hold the whole stack of bread together at once. And then all of the cubes just went onto a cookie sheet. These 3 loaves fit on 2 jelly roll pans and 3 of the small cookie sheets that you can get at Dollar Tree. I first set the oven to 200 for 2 hours, but after the first half hour, I turned the bread and found that it was actually cooking, and you don't want to cook it, you really just want to dry it out. So I would start at 175. All right, after cooking them for 2 hours and turning them every half hour, all of the ones on the silver pans were done, but the ones on the stone pans were stacked a little deeper, so they weren't completely dry. So they took another half hour. And now I have this great big 2-gallon bag full of stuffing cubes. And I just use them just like I use any other stuffing cube that you would buy at the store. But this bag cost me about $1 to make, and I would have paid $8 in the store. So I'm super excited about this. This is my favorite way to make stuffing. And I did have these breadcrumbs left, and it was just all of the little crumbs that were left at the bottom of the pans after I took all the cubes off. So I just dumped all of these crumbs into my breadcrumb container because it has great flavors in it, so I'm just going to use that for meatloaf or meatballs or whatever. So I am so excited to make this stuffing mix. I hope you give it a try. It is way less expensive and really not very hard. I appreciate you sticking around to the end. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you again soon.